Hello and welcome to another episode of Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and marketing enthusiasts looking to elevate their marketing game. Today, we're joined by a fantastic guest. He's the founder of Practical, a leading meal prep service in the UAE. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Kiernan.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Chris, welcome to the show. As you know, I was introduced to the Practical platform around a year ago now, and it has been an absolute game changer for me. It's allowed to keep my diet completely on track, even with a week full of meetings, busy schedule, travel and everything. It really has changed the game. So I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper into how you built the Practical brand and obviously the marketing strategies behind it. But before we do that, let's get started with your story.
Awesome. Nice. Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I came out to Dubai, I think early 30s, knowing that I'd done lots and lots of work in marketing for food and beverage brands. But I knew that I was good at it, but I knew that it wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And I think that was something to do with the fact that I was very good at selling, but I was also very good at selling things that weren't very good for you. And it wasn't very compatible with my belief system. So I did a bit of nutrition coaching as well. I set up a business called Design for Life, which is all about holistic coaching so people could live their best selves. And then around the time of COVID, I had a lot of my clients saying, you're advising us on food and we're paying you to do that. Could you just deliver the food instead or at the same time? And I thought, actually, now is the time to do that. And so Practical was born.
Fantastic. So when you first came to found Practical, what was the vision you originally started with there?
The vision's born of like some insights around the fact that I know a lot about food and yet I couldn't manage to put it together when I was in my office environment. And that's because food it's very practical to eat badly. Yeah. And what I mean is foods that are cheap and easily accessible are generally foods that are not very good for you. But eating well is really difficult. I would have these nutrition clients and I would say, right, so please do this and this. Can you try and hit this many calories and maybe even hit this many macros? But there's always, the hard bit is the end bit, the bit where you actually have to do it.
100%.
Sounds like, so the vision for Practical was, right, okay, well, let's make eating well actually practical. So let's make the food be really nice, come in the right size portions at the right time, all the time. Let's make sure that the portions are always exactly consistent. Let's make sure that actually, if you decide you want breakfast to be smaller and lunch to be slightly bigger, you can do that. It's super flexible. Let's make sure that if you want a refund, you can get the refund the same day. Let's make everything practical. Yeah. About the whole business. You can pause when you want. There's loads of slots. Because I just didn't see that service being out there. Truly practical food.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. It's a great part of the platform there that you can chop and change like you want. You know, some weeks you can cut those macros down or cut the calories down.
Yeah.
Other weeks push them up. You can change the number of days. The flexibility is a great part of it. So you've got the vision and goals that you laid out there.
Yeah.
Looks great on paper. What were those early steps you took when you've had that light bulb moment in your head? What were the first steps towards Practical?
It's interesting. Not many people have ever asked me about this, really. So,
well, we like to ask questions, other people don't.
Yeah, I'm quite a risk-averse person. Yeah. So I had a business that was functioning. I was coaching people in nutrition. So I didn't really want to do it, actually. And then, but then you have enough people say to you, like, you've got a really interesting model of how you coach people. Because when I coach people, I basically said, you can have whatever you want. Let's take the moral out of food. It's not good or bad. You should just eat. Food is only bad if it makes you feel bad afterwards. Practical was it was going to be an extension of that. This idea that we can deliver food to you that doesn't make you feel bad. So the initial stages were, right, well, who am I? What does that actually mean for a start? Like what would a company that delivers food that doesn't make you feel bad, what does that look like? So first of all, you've got to figure out what the business actually is. And the insight around was essentially portion control. So the first thing was like getting down to the essence of what we actually do that's different. So portion control, that's what we do really. So in the UAE is one of the most obese countries in the world. It's hot, we drive all the time. Yeah, the GCC is also like that. When I moved here, I thought everyone had six-pack abs, but actually we're all in our GMC cars driving around all the time.
You learn something new every day. I never knew that.
Yeah, right?
But it's so true when you think about it. In the UK, you might walk to work, you might, there's a lot more walking, there's a lot more public transport, there's a lot more that. In here, it's lift down to the car to the office.
All of that, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what That's why portion control is so important here. I wanted to find people's Goldilocks portion, their perfect portion size. When you've eaten and you don't have enough food, a lot of people find themselves doing weird things like going to a petrol station and having Snickers bar on the way back from a restaurant. Or if you have too much food, you feel bloated, or you feel like, oh, that's it. It's over now. The diet's over. I'm off the wagon. So I was looking for that perfect portion size for every single person. So the first thing, like when you say, how did Practical get going? What was the genesis? It was, what does the company actually do? And what we do is we provide a lot of variety of food in 400, 500, 600, 700, and 800 calorie portions, 5 sizes, which allows you to eat whatever you want in a portion size that makes you feel, well, fine afterwards. You don't feel bad afterwards. That was the first thing.
No, it's an amazing point, because I think in the office in particular, the lunch you eat is so important. If I have a practical meal at lunch, back to the desk, ready to go.
Yeah.
If you order something off Deliveroo, say, we probably shouldn't have any big brands here, but a well-known baguette or something like that, you sit at that desk, your energy levels have gone through the floor.
Yeah.
You're feeling lethargic, you're feeling unmotivated, your brain's not working well. And I think that's the big thing people have to realize is for business success, for entrepreneurship success, for business growth, that fuel you're putting in your body is essential.
It is essential. Yeah. And I think a lot of people start food brands who are in food who have a very unemotional connection with food. Now, for food, for me, is very emotional. I'm an emotional eater. Yeah. My wife isn't. She's like a robot. She can eat whatever she wants. And in a sense, I feel kind of a bit jealous about that. Yeah. But equally, I don't think she has the same joy that I find in food. Food for me is life. It's social. It's family. It's if I've had a good day. It's if I've had a bad day. It massively affects what I eat. And that sort of insight around like portion control, for example, like that really speaks to me in the way I am. Like if I'm a stress eater naturally, even though I know all the sort of science behind it, but the reality is if I've had a bad day and I feel low and maybe I've got some more work to do and stuff, I'll eat more. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Other people will do the way. They hardly eat anything. You might see someone you haven't seen for 6 months and they're like, they've gained some weight or they've lost a load of weight. And usually they're like, say, oh, I lost my job or something happened that really stressed them out. In fact, in COVID, all my clients, it was very rare to find a client in COVID that just stayed the same. Yeah. You either got the guys that got a bit bigger or you got the guys that got a little bit smaller. But anyways, I suppose speaking about the practical thing. So once I got that insight, I was like, okay, great. Now I need to make sure I need a business plan, right? So you got to make sure does it actually stack up on paper? And now a lot of that, obviously there's a lot of that's financial, but equally there's also a big piece around marketing. How would you differentiate a portion control meal plan business from other ones?
100%. So like you said there, the differentiation, the meal prep market in the UAE, but across the world now, is a competitive field.
Massive.
There's a lot of people doing it. How did you first set out to differentiate against those competitors?
I mean, one of the most obvious headline ones is the name of the company. So it took me a while to figure out what the name of the company was going to be, right? So it wasn't Practical. It was going to be Prep Eat, as in repeat, with a P at the beginning. The insight being that consistency, if you can be consistent with food and with anything in life, generally you get better results, generally. So I had this insight around, it's about being able to repeat your successes, but also because it's a meal prep business. Yeah. The idea was it was going to be called Prep Eat. And in fact, the logo for Prep Eat has a P with an arrow going back through it, which I kept for Practical. So our Practical on P is a P with an arrow going round and it goes backwards. Yeah. And people say, well, what does that mean? And I mean, well, it speaks to consistency, but the honest truth is because it's a hangover from the old logo.
It came from the one before.
It
came from the one before. Yeah. So you've set yourself apart with this idea of making it very easy to repeat on a weekly basis. How did you then set about communicating that when you decided this is the key values, the core values of the brand, this is what we stand for? How did you work that into the branding, the visual process to really communicate that to the audience?
Yeah, well, so I'm ex-marketing, so like a lot of companies, I think a lot of time people think that like marketing and like branding stuff is a bit airy-fairy and a bit pointless. But actually, having brand values, having a tone of voice written down, having a mission statement that you can look at, it's actually really important, especially if you're the sort of person that gets distracted easily, like me. So it's good to have something like the core values that set you apart. So those values, like number one for us is transparency. Yeah. Transparency because in food is a very untransparent business. Yeah. How many times have you been to a restaurant? You're like, I don't want to look in the kitchen. I wonder what's in that. You try and ask a question, and they look at you like you're crazy. Yeah. So transparency. Yeah. And the next value is being straightforward, straight to the point. Yeah. So I find again with food and with nutrition people online, there's a lot of obfuscation and blinded by science, and because you can make money that way. You can sell a course that way. Yeah. Whenever I would coach people on food, I would just be pretty straightforward. People think that you have to have a super low sugar diet or watch the timing of your salt or odd things. But the reality is it's just eat food that doesn't make you feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, a recurring theme across this podcast with guests from every industry is just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to reinvent the world. Everyone's, gets bought into these mad schemes. But if you just keep it simple, do the basics well with your diet, with everything, it really does pay off.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So you mentioned there about laying out the brand values, brand guidelines, etc. Let's dig into the marketing strategy and the things you focused on. First things first, customer base.
Yes.
When you set out, how did you identify what the practical customer was going to look like, who it was going to be, what the size of that market was, those core areas?
So I think every business owner comes to it from a different place. I think I had a bit of a head start here because I was already, I'd had this career in food marketing, and then I essentially retrained as a nutrition coach. I was successful as a nutrition coach. And I also got a couple of gigs working with gyms and some quite high profile gyms as well. And so I had this base. By the time I'd finished it, I had a base of 1,000 clients in the UAE, mainly in Dubai. Okay. So 1,000 connections that I'd worked with one-on-one between 2017 and 2022. So my sort of initial thing was, your customer pen portrait. I mean, I know my customer pen portraits. I literally know who they are. because there's this, everyone is completely different, but there are certain typologies out there, right? So of course, I knew that whenever I was working with my nutrition coach clients, I would want them to cook themselves. I wouldn't want them to have a meal plan. But there were certain ones that always did. And a good example would be female, single, teacher, expat, for example. Female, single, teacher, expat, goes to the gym, doesn't earn a huge amount of money, actually, but she's incredibly time poor, gets up at 5 a.m. every day, days are long, but is also socializing, I find that I would always say if I was ever working as a nutrition coach, I'd say you can cook yourself. It never really worked out that way. So that's good. So you end up with there's one person here. Yeah. Another massive example in my client base was C-suite executive, male or female. Yeah. Again, limited time, usually has a PA, usually has someone in their house who is cooking for them as well. Yeah. Earns more money than the teacher, right? And has different priorities around the food or whatever. And so I found that I quickly had these I already had certain typologies in mind. Of course, what that does is that allows you to brand and price the business accordingly. So I had to make sure that, for example, my branding is neutral in terms of gender cues and things like that. So it's a fairly we have essentially an even split of male and female clients.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Right, yeah. For example...
Straight down the middle.
Yeah, pretty much straight down the middle. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah. Right, fine. My clients were from across the regions. I'm British, and I had a few British clients, but equally a lot of Europeans, a lot of Australians, a lot of Americans, also a lot of people from the GCC, a lot of Emiratis as well. So we had to make sure that the business wasn't Chris's English Fish and Chips Co. Right? But it's also not Chris's Arabic only deli.
No.
It's practical. It should be everything. In fact, they actually stole's the wrong word, borrowed with pride the layout of the Cheesecake Factory menu. So have you been to Cheesecake Factory?
I've been to the Cheesecake Factory, yeah.
Many times. So Cheesecake Factory is one of those, I think it's one of those crazy places where you go and there's a lot of stuff on the menu. Now, usually if you go to a place when there's a lot of stuff on the menu, the food quality is terrible.
It's direct correlation, isn't it?
Right, yeah. The more on the menu, especially if you go to a Chinese takeaway, right? It's or an Indian takeaway, especially in the UK. Yeah. With Cheesecake Factory, because obviously they're a massive concern, et cetera, and their kitchen's humongous. I'm not saying their food's 10 out of 10. It's not. But it also isn't 6 out of 10. So it's somewhere in that sweet spot between 7, 8, and 9 out of 10. Yeah. If I had to have a business meeting in the Cheesecake Factory, it wouldn't end me. It would be fine. I could have a meeting in the Cheesecake Factory at lunchtime with a colleague. I could also take my girlfriend there on a date if you wanted to. I could also take my grandma there. I could also finish in the gym and go in there with my gym buddies. I liked that. I liked that model for Practical in terms of the menu variety. Yeah. So I wanted people to look at the Practical menu and be like, these people, all these people I've talked about, these pen portraits. I wanted something for the teacher who wanted something at 5 a.m. I wanted something for the C-suite executive who needed lunch like dealt with. I wanted something for the triathlete. I need something for the person who's got a 2-year-old daughter that's not eating their greens. I wanted something for all of those things. And what you realize as well is that we're all people. So the thing that appeals to the C-suite executive also appeals, probably in a different portion size, to the teacher.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And that's fine. But it meant that we had to have 120 choices on the menu.
120 choices on that.
Well, there's actually an infinite amount of choices because we also had another feature, added a feature called Build Your Own, where you can just you can have whatever you want essentially.
So we talked there about the customer base, and then we nicely moved on to the actual product offering.
Yeah,
let's dig into that product offering a little bit more. So we've identified those 3-4, but even more than that, ideal customer type bases. Yes. How did you go about that original product offering? I can imagine a lot of tasting in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But beyond that, what was the thought process between, around making the menu? What were the things that you started with and you decided this isn't right for us? How did that evolution take place?
Interesting question. So I had a bit of a head start on this again because I'm ex-corporate, right? So when I left the corporate world and started coaching people, I realized that people in coaching were nowhere near as buttoned down as I was from my corporate days. So whenever I'd work with someone, coaching someone, I set up on Squarespace, like a questionnaire that you had to fill in order to work with me. It was 83 questions long, right? And at the end of it, there was a list of all of the different foods that I would put on a nutrition plan. Just to be clear, these are people, so this is between 2017 and 2022, people who wanted to get coached on nutrition. I would always give them a nutrition plan, right? Now, as I was building the business, I wouldn't just say have sandwiches, have whatever I want. I'd ask them what they liked. And I'd build recipes based on them, their parents, what they'd had. And pretty soon you build up this bank of recipes. And because you're efficient at business, you know that, hold on a minute, this Sarah liked this and Claire's now on the plan. And so maybe Claire would like the same thing that she likes. So in my questionnaire, I had 200 meals that I had already nutritionally balanced with products that were available in the UAE, ready to go. So at the end of it, there was like 200 things. It was like, right, literally it was a tick sheet or online. And check this. Tell me if you like this. If you do not check this, it will not appear anywhere near your plan. But if you check it, it might appear on your plan, on your nutrition plan. So it's anything from salads through oatmeal, it could be or just any food your heart desires. And I'd already got these recipes and I'd already trialed them over 5 years. They were real people's recipes. So when I started Practical, I was like, well, I already have a bank of 200 recipes, tried and tested by real people, because they're from real people in the GCC, real American. So they tasted quite homely, and they were quite simple to make as well, because you can make them at home. Oh, yeah. Great, nice one. So I literally took them into an Excel table. I then calculated all of the different results I'd had over between 1,000 clients, just pulled out the most popular ones. Nice one. And then I taste tested them with a chef in a place called the Surf Cafe, which Claudio let me use his kitchen, which is great. Taste tested them, like made a few tweaks, tried to simplified it, and pretty soon I had a list of like my top. I called it. I want my menu to be all killer, no filler. That's it. That's all I wanted. So I wanted to cover all these different types of people, and I'm going to use this bank of tried and tested, crowdsourced recipes. Great, nice one. Now I've tried them again. I then put them into essentially a popularity order. So, for example, spaghetti bolognese is more popular on a list than mango barley salad, for example. They're both very nice, right? But spag bowl is more important than that. So when we launched Practical, we just launched with the top. I think we launched with the top 60. I think it was 50. We launched with 50 things, And they were the 50 most popular things from 7 years of nutrition coaching. And it was great because I already had the recipes. They were already mine. They were already shared with me by real people. So I had stories about that. And as I look forward to, and I'm sure we're going to talk about looking forward, one of the big things, no one knows this, by the way. I haven't communicated this anywhere. These recipes aren't from the internet. They're from real people. I can name the people all the recipes.
I love that.
Have I done anything with it? Not yet. But that's good because we've got ammo in the marketing tank.
Yeah, we've got great storytelling options for you.
Yeah, 100%. I've never even touched it.
I think that's interesting that you say these items can be made at home, because we look at meal prep companies and they're trying to come up with mad, crazy things that they can't make at home, like, hemp powered this, hemp powered that.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, I don't want to use meal prep because I could make that at home. Well, you're not fucking going to, are you?
100%.
You haven't got the time. You haven't got the kitchen in your office. So why not have that healthy home cooked food? Have it done for you.
I completely agree. There's a couple of things when I started Practical, because I am transparent and straightforward, as it were. Transparent, straightforward. Okay, right. Things that I hate on meal plans. 1, snacks, rip off. Rip off. So I was like, when I started Practical, I was like, I'm not putting snacks on the menu.
Are they on there now?
Yeah. I'll explain. Well, yeah, exactly. And also, breakfast, rip off. Yeah. So I was like, I can make my own cornflakes and I can buy my own Snickers. So leave me alone. And then, of course, what happens is your purest view of your business gets tempered by, before you're launching, you're showing people your website and stuff. And, of course, you realize that there are people, and this is the convenience play. Yes, you can buy a Snickers from an ADNOC, or you can buy an apple from an ADNOC or whatever. You can, but equally, if you're working a 16-hour day and you're trying to resist the vending machine, having even an apple just arrive in front of you is invaluable. And for me, I felt guilty. I was like, well, yeah, but you could probably find an apple cheaper if you went into a Carrefour and pre-bought it. But they're like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then my trick was, okay, well, I'm going to make my snacks awesome. So my snacks are actually snacks inside. So I'm going to allow you to order pure protein as a snack and not charge you any more. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Same with breakfast. I'm like, one of our biggest selling lines is oatmeal. I'm like, now, let's be honest. You can make oatmeal at home pretty quick, and it's cheap. But I'm not sure if you've ever tried to make overnight oats a lot. There's a certain personality type that is absolutely fine at making overnight oats. And there's a certain lifestyle which goes along with that, which is they're not working 17 hours a day. Whereas some people here don't have the personality type to constantly be prepping ahead. And a lot of people here, unfortunately, just working really busy jobs.
Oh, really busy jobs. I mean, for me, that's the biggest thing. That food arrives every day between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. I get up, shower, clothes on, out the door to work, pick my bag up, and I don't have to think about food for the rest of that day. I don't have to worry about ordering on delivery and going, oh, I'm starving, I've got to wait 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've got a meeting in 45 minutes. Oh, so then I can't eat for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That food is ready when I want it at my convenience. And if I'm paying double the amount for an apple, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, and I think and that's it. And I like the options of value. So I'm from a place in the UK called Huddersfield. It's not like a super wealthy place, and so I have got a sort of a bit of a chip on my shoulder about money, to be honest, and about the fact that sometimes people here try and sell you something that's not great, and they try and sell it to you for $1 million, and it bothers me. So it irks me a little bit, even now that we have apples on our plan, because I know you can get them cheaper in other places. But again, I understand, one, there's a huge convenience factor there, and it helps people stay on track. But I also, for my own sanity, I also like the fact that you can also get products in our snacks for the same price. For the same price, you can get an apple or sirloin steak on our plan. If you get an apple from Practical, if you want an apple, that's fine, but you can get it cheaper in Carrefour, right? If you get sirloin steak from Practical, you cannot buy it cheaper anywhere in Dubai, not even in Viva. Nowhere cheaper, nowhere. And so what's interesting about I think it's interesting. The business model is the world is based on upsells, right? Mm-hmm. Get this, and then you get a bit more, and then you get a little bit more. We don't have any of that. So, pricing is flat on Practical. Yeah. So with the steak, we actually don't make any money. I think we might, on some cases, we lose money if someone orders steak as a snack. And so when you tell people that, people are like, how do you operate your business like that? It's like, because I coached people in food from 2017 to 2022, I have a really good understanding, or at least a good experience of what normal people tend to eat on a daily basis. And just because it's rational that the steak costs more money doesn't mean people will do it every day. There's 1 in 100 people will try and bankrupt me, and all they'll order is steak, salmon, and prawns. Yeah. But for 99.999% of people, they just want the food they want when they want it. Sometimes you want an apple. Sometimes you want a protein ball. Sometimes you want a cake. Sometimes you want steak. Sometimes you want chicken. Yeah. And that evens out over time. Yeah.
So for any practical customers listening today, stay off the steak.
Yeah, literally. So yeah, steak, prawn, salmon. And
keep away from them.
We can end the business if you constantly have them. But the reality is, I'll test you.
Yeah,
you won't.
So we look there, that original idea, the branding, the concept behind it. One of the things that I was very impressed about when I found Practical, obviously being from the background I'm from, was the website.
Yes.
I think arguably we've talked about the product quality, the offering, but beyond that, the website is such an essential part.
Yeah.
It's got to be simple to use. It's got to have an easy navigation, and it's got to effectively do what it says on the tin, which makes ordering food practical.
Yeah.
Great system you've got in place. Sometimes I find it hard to compliment other people's work, but when it comes to building them systems, it's very impressive. What was the initial concept with that? How did it come about to build that platform?
The website has made a humongous difference. I think as the business has evolved, I look back sometimes and I think there are certain inflection points where if I got the decision wrong, it would have ended the business. If you get the decision right, it helps grow the business. One of them is the website, right? If you get the website wrong, you choose the wrong company to build the website, you don't have a functioning business.
No.
It's over, right? And now I've come from a background of marketing, and a background where we'd made websites and stuff in the past. I was pretty clear on what I wanted the UX to be. Yeah. Like the key thing, of course, was to deliver flexibility to the user. So like ultimate power to the user is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And on Practical, that is what we've done.
And what do you think are the key elements to success of the Practical website?
I'd say the first thing is the fact that you can swap anything for anything at any time.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the primary one. Second one is the idea that you can set every single meal to be exactly the same size, so you don't have to think about it and go on MyFitnessPal or any of that stuff. I think that's fine. And I think the third one is the onboarding process. But the third one's a bit of a tricky one, the onboarding process, because there's a reason why I left the marketing game, he says on a marketing podcast. But the reason why I left working for other brands was that I wanted to do something in a moral sort of good way, right? And one of the reasons I don't like meal plans, or one of the reasons I got frustrated with meal plans, is they would try and sell me or my clients things without understanding me or my client. So they didn't ask any questions. So if you go on to, I won't name them, but if you go on to pretty much any other meal plan now, within 2 clicks, they'll get you to they'll show you a price.
Yeah.
They go, right, well, so, what do you want? You want the muscle gain plan. You want the lean plan. But they don't know who you are. They don't care either. But they don't know who you are. They don't know your goals. And even if they ask, they don't know you. They don't know anything about your biomechanics, about your history or whatever else. And I liken it to when you go to a car garage. If you don't know anything about a car and you go to a car garage and the mechanic just tells you it's going to be, it's 5,000 dirhams. And you're convinced it's not 5,000 dirhams, but you've got absolutely no way of
knowing,
yeah. and of proving that. Yeah. And as I say, it's not very transparent. So the onboarding process of Practical is interesting because it's a marketeer's nightmare. Because I don't know what the number is, but I think it's something akin to 70 clicks between website landing on practical.me and checkout.
70 clicks.
It might be more. It could be more.
Wow.
It's the most. So I've put the payment at the back end. So as far back as possible. Yeah. So I know every single thing about you before you are given the chance to pay. Yeah. Why? Because that means that the plan is actually tailored to exactly what you want. It's not just, hey, here's some off-the-shelf muscle gain plan. You take that, pay me. See you later. So and that helps, I think, with client retention because if you set up, and I had this with coaching as well, if you just give someone an off-the-shelf plan, it's not going to work. And you will not have a long-term relationship with that person. They'll usually feel bad about it. And you're like, well, it didn't work for you. That's because you didn't try hard enough. Yeah. That's bullshit.
So if we look at the UI UX there, obviously 70 steps in that customer journey.
Yeah, could be more.
There's going to be that's going to increase your drop-off rate.
Yeah.
But you take the concept as a business owner that you would rather get more people dropping off, and the people that you do have, you retain.
Yeah.
You're treating them well. You're giving them exactly what they need.
That's the idea. Yeah. So
Honest business.
Yeah, honest business, and also I suppose to being ruthless about it. Also, better retention. So retention rates are what kill meal plan businesses. Meal plan game is full of people trying meal plans and then getting bored or going for the next offer down the road. Right. Our retention rate in May was 90%. 90.
Huge.
It's unheard of.
Yeah.
I've worked with many nutrition plans as a nutrition coach and as a consultant, and like 40% is considered good. 9 out of 10 people renew. 9 out of 10.
Unbelievable.
Like but that's only because I think two things. One, the plan is set up in a way that's specific to them. Like your plan will be specific to you. It's nothing to do with me. It's not some generic plan. You can choose whatever you want, right? That's one thing. And also two, and this is I think it's a good thing, I suppose, for me, which is that it's a system, right? Where else are you going to find exactly the right meals you want and exactly the right sizes every single day? It doesn't exist. No. We're the only company in the world that does it. So why wouldn't you renew? And
you mentioned offers there. There's a lot of meal prep companies that are constantly handing out these offers.
Yes.
Trials for a week, it could be 100 dirhams, it could be $100, etc. But trials for a week at a very discounted rate.
Yep.
You said there's a lot of people just going around trying different ones. Do you avoid those kind of offers, or is that something you do integrate?
On a podcast, it's tempting just to kind of give definitive answers, isn't it? And say this is the way I believe it to be. Yeah. This is an issue that we're still struggling with, and I think we'll change. Struggling with is the wrong word. This is an issue that we're still trialing, should we say. So, because there's a couple of different ways you can go about this, right? So the market is a discount market. Yeah. There are companies doing deep discounts on meal plans, and it's also price sensitive. And the way the UAE is at the moment, people have got less disposable income, or some people have got less disposable income. So there's an argument to say we don't do discounts. We're confident in our product. Our product is absolutely excellent. You will not find a platform like this. We're the only company in the world where you can have every meal in every size, 120 choices, yada, yada, yada. So get on board or get off, right? That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is completely opposite, which is like free. Come into our honey trap and we'll give it to you for free. And then you'll try it. And then we believe, because we've got 9 out of 10 retention, we'll keep you. At the minute, Practical's in a bit of, in the middle, essentially. Okay. So where we are at the moment is our growth strategy, which we may come on to, but our growth strategy, part of our growth strategy is partnerships. So we work a lot with different schools, different businesses, different gyms, and certain trainers and other things like that. And we do run discount schemes through those places. Okay. You can find Practical. We have partnerships with, like, let's say CrossFit Alliance, for example. We have a partnership with them, so all their members get 20% off.
Okay.
For example, so there are certain, and sometimes they're ongoing depending on the relationship. Sometimes they're time bound. We found that our business can essentially, at 20%, we can survive and grow with a 20% discount rate across a certain proportion of our clients. Yeah. We can't really survive with a 30% discount rate because we don't upsell on people and because of the prawns, steak, and because of a few other reasons. So we've found a balance where it means that our company is growing nicely. I don't think we found the optimal balance and the right of price versus value. I don't think, but we're only 1 year old. Oh. It takes time.
There's a lot of time to find that.
It's a lot of time to find it. So the answer is that's a work in progress. And as with all things marketing, it's a bit of an A/B test. Like, you just have to kind of suck it and see for a while and try. There are brands I know, like in the gym space, for example. There are brands like Ultimate Performance which don't discount at all. Yeah. There are brands like Gym Nation which discount permanently, and there are brands like Fitness First which discount occasionally. All three have working business models. Yeah. The question is, where do you want to sit on that spectrum?
And over time, you find that exact sweet spot, the one that works for Practical.
Yeah. I'm still not sure.
We'll be there soon. So you mentioned there partnerships.
Yeah.
A big part of the gym, the healthy eating, that whole sector. How do you go about selecting your partnerships? It was through a partnership. Yeah. I first got introduced to Practical.
Yeah. So there's a bit of it's like reactive and a bit of it's proactive, right? So reactive, like now, because we're a bit larger, we get approached a lot for partnerships. Like we'll get a partnership offer a day, probably, about 300 or 400 a year now, sort of thing. And it's about finding companies that have similar, I was going to say similar values, but actually the primary thing is about making sure do they have amazing reach into a different area that we're not already in? Because that was the idea at the beginning, right? So like, if you think about all of the different areas of community in the UAE, so you've got sport, but what's within sport? Sport could be bodybuilders, could be football players, could be rugby players, could be crossfitters, could be high roxers, could be triathletes, could be swimmers, could be hockey players. Are they school level or are they veterans or where are they? So right there, I've just given you there's 12 categories of partners. The idea was to have one discrete partner in every single one. Yeah. And it's kind of still the way that we operate, really. Trying to have one marquee partner in every single area. Law, and then again, law firm, F&B company. Yeah. If you think about it, you can get a piece of paper out and just if you start listing where people congregate, either where they work or where they socialize, there's thousands of them.
Oh, definitely, and you just get that market penetration.
And then it's all about, and then it's about good, and then it's about relationships, right? Because the product is good. This is one of the things that's really lovely about Practical. The product, the operation is good. So sometimes in my past I've had to sell things that I don't believe in. The product is good. I'm sat here I don't know. I haven't looked at your account. I don't know exactly what you order, but I know that I'm confident that the food will arrive and it's good, right? So it's just a case of, for me, it's we'll just spread the word.
And with these partnerships, you mentioned there's gyms, there's also the influencers.
There's influencers, yeah, and offices.
And with that, which do you tend to work with more? Do you make those partnerships with gyms? Do you make them with individuals? How do the influencers come into play?
We have an ambassador program, and it's built in a way. It's built based on bad experiences my nutrition clients had with meal plan companies. Yeah. So our brand ambassador program runs. So if I say a general member of the public at CrossFit Alliance, for example, could get 20% off. Brand ambassadors they actually start at 30%, depending on, and there's a certain set of requirements for what they need to do. But that 30% discount for them can drop to 20, like a regular member of the public who's got a membership at somewhere that we're partnered with, all the way up to 100% food for free. So the minute we have 8 coaches eating Practical for free in Dubai, in the UAE, at the moment, for free. No limit, for free. But what they're bringing specific amounts of business using their specific codes, and they're also bringing us a specific amount of opportunity and reach, usually into a different sector that I can't reach. Okay. That's what that is. Yeah. So it's reactive, so people's codes change every single 4 weeks. But it goes up and down. It's all automated. Took us a while to get it right, actually, because essentially, people in health and fitness, and influencers maybe are slightly different, but people in health and fitness generally are not. It's not that lucrative of a business. If you want to be really rich, go and work for Goldman Sachs. Right? Oh yeah. So so I find it sometimes a bit distasteful when a meal prep company will try and essentially rip off a trainer. When a trainer's got access to 300 people a day who are coming from all walks of life and coming into their gym, it's from a business point of view, it makes sense to reach those 300 people. Yeah. But also from a sort of humanitarian point of view, it's we don't exist because of income driven by people in health and fitness, as in directly. We exist because of the income driven by their network, not by them themselves.
And those trainers, they've got such an opportunity to influence their clients that other people simply don't have.
Precisely, but they also have quite precarious lives. They are not well-off people. They work really hard. They get up crazy hours. So I just think that if we can get, and as long as we can help them do it, let's say we got these 8 people are eating for free. Some of them, that's a lot of money they're saving. A lot of money.
Huge money. How might become a trainer now right. just to get the practical?
And by the way, it's not just trainers actually. Yeah. It isn't just trainers. So we've got other people. We've got people in schools who champion us in their entire school. Yeah. Who would say okay, well look, I'll champion you across my entire school. There's a staff base of 300. Great, nice one. If you can you give them this code? No problem. Like we'll do it. So we've got teachers who are eating for no teachers eating for free at the moment. We've got teachers who are eating for 80% off because they've given us they've let us into a community, right? Now we help them with that. So it's not just a case of saying sell my meal plan because you don't have the time to do that. But for example, I do a lot of content with my partners. Yeah. So I'll help them. And if they say, hey, Chris, can you come in on a break time or to the gym and give out some samples or do some consultations? I'm like, of course I can, because it helps you do your thing for me. Like practical is my number one priority. It's not your number one priority. It's not this lady's number one priority. They're just doing it because it's practical, right? Let's not overthink it too much, right? Like all we're providing great food, all that stuff, but there's still another 23 hours in the day. Yeah. So my job with partnership is to help them spread the word in a genuine way and to reward them accordingly. Yeah. And I think we're getting there on that.
So you mentioned the content there. This Practical's got a great social media accounts. You share some fantastic stuff from you on the rowing machine doing a challenge, to burning calories. There's a lot going on. How do you leverage social media for Practical?
Well, it's interesting because we've got a pretty low social media footprint. Like we're at 4,000 followers on Instagram versus 50,000 or 100,000. Or one of our customers one of our current customers has 1.7 million followers, for example, genuine followers. Yeah. I think the first thing about leveraging our social media. So one is leveraging our social media to make us enough money to continue as a business. So we need to make sure that what we're doing on social media in some regard pays back. So, because we only have 4,000, we have more people on our Practical database of customers who've been to the website than we do on our Instagram. So we have more paying customers than we do followers on Instagram, which is quite crazy actually, really. But that's because I use Instagram as part of my partnership strategy. Okay. So me doing these crazy challenges with rowing or sweat or counting calories, and it's all part of an understanding that I'm doing that. I do each piece of content to make a connection with my partners. There's nothing worse than a sort of generic corporate partner that doesn't. You see them at like tournaments, like sponsored by this people and this people. Like I don't know about you, but I've never gone to a tournament like the Formula One and then looked at the tier B sponsors and then bought a pro. I just don't buy it. No. I've been part of agency life. I just don't buy it. What I do buy is if a business or a gym or a place of work that you are in makes a connection with a company, and then the founder of the company comes into your place of work or gym, meets you, makes the connection, then you're likely to trust that person and maybe consider them, So our Instagram at the moment, the strategy essentially is it's partnership reinforcement done in an interesting way.
So as an overall rule of thumb, your main marketing strategy behind Practical is this community building?
It was community building, actually. I'll say this. It was community building. But community building will only get you so far when you're starting to deal with wider general population. So one of our areas for work on our own social media is food credentials and doing that in an interesting way. If you go on our social media right now, it's not that easy to find. You wouldn't know we're a meal plan company. You'd think it was an Instagram of a man who goes to gyms, right? Which is fine if you're interested if you're one step removed from a trainer. Yeah. But if you're working in a school in Fajera and you want to make sure your lunch is good because you want to lose 20 kilos and you feel bad about yourself, watching an English guy die on a rowing machine, that doesn't solve your issue. Yeah. He doesn't even pretend to solve your issue. He doesn't even speak to your issue. So what we found is that as our community gets larger, our community involves, in order for our community to expand beyond where we are right now, we have to actually communicate what we are, which is we're a meal plan company that does portion control, that allows you to have any size you want, swap when you want. We are truly practical and we can help you get there. So for the future, we've got two big sort of areas of expansion where in terms of marketing and in terms of functionality that we need to push on, because otherwise our community is just going to stay the same, because there's a danger of just talking to yourself.
Yeah, it's essential to understand what your customer wants and actually deliver that content, deliver that material, deliver that marketing that resonates with them.
Yeah, and I know what my current customer wants, but the question is, I need to be interested in what my current customer wants.
Yeah, and there's going to be that market, like you said there, the Instagram, the social medias, they're very gym-led. I'm sure there's also customers that aren't necessarily huge gym goers. They just want to eat healthy.
Humongously.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of one of the insights. That's one of our newest parts of our business is called Practical Executive, which we're launching at the moment, which has been really, really useful, which essentially is for people who aren't interested in the gym, who aren't interested in meal plans, but what they are interested in is the fact that every day they have a nightmare eating lunch at work because it's expensive, quality's hit and miss, it's difficult to get hold of. So we've started promoting this part of our business, Practical Executive, where we'll come to your office every day. We'll bring the food that you want in this portion size you want it, with nothing you dislike. We'll bring that to you, and we'll make sure that it's cheaper than any of the supermarkets, as well as the delivery apps. And the strategy around marketing that has nothing to do with gyms. It's all about feeling good at work, making good choices, saving time and saving money. That's it. And it's interesting because when I'm now in offices and speaking to working people, there's 1 in 10 want to talk to me about the gym, but 9 out of 10 just want to feel better, maybe lose a bit of weight, or maybe save some money. That's what people actually generally want. And that's what we're doing with this new piece of our business, Practical Executive.
It's an unbelievable idea. I really, really like that one. Because how I found Practical, I go to the gym, I eat healthy, but I wouldn't say I'm not doing this for the 6-pack abs or anything. You're doing it to effectively be more successful in business.
Yeah.
I want to be more on the ball in the office. I want to take those headaches away from myself.
100%.
So if you need a face for the brand, call me up. I'll do the photo shoot.
All over. Well, that's the thing, actually, because when we arrived, you talked about your change in body composition between last year and this year, and it's a positive story. I'm not capitalizing on any of that because where's that? That's another part of our marketing strategy. The food plan, if delivered well, whether it's to your office or as a meal plan, it delivers results, right? So results speak volumes. We've all seen transformations, and I think transformations are still the most powerful tool to make someone click on a product. Yeah. So Practical Executive may have an angle of that around it, you know?
And even moving away from the body composition, like I said before, I believe Practical aided me in my business growth. So it's not just that transformation in your body, it's the transformation in your mind, your outset, probably most importantly, your bank balance.
Well, yeah, and
because that's what every executive is looking for.
And every executive and every person really is balancing costs in versus benefit, right? So meal plans, I mean, actually, ironically, here in Dubai at least, meal plans are probably the same as shopping in the shops. Yeah. But outside Dubai, maybe you can find food just cheaper overall than a meal plan. Mm-hmm. But what a meal plan gives you back is time and mental space. And if the food is good, it also increases your acuity, which allows you to make more productive use of that other time. So it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. If you want to exceed in business or life, having someone take that headache away from you is, at least in my opinion, it's almost essential. Yeah.
So we touched on the future there. Let's look at the future of the meal prep delivery industry. Okay. Where do you see the market going?
It's interesting. I know exactly where I see I know where I see my market going, but I think I would say increased personalization. So everything. So now everyone's got an Apple Watch. Everyone's got a Whoop band. People are now wearing glucose monitors and things. People are now miles more familiar with blood testing, allergy testing. You see that all the time. 20 years ago, if you went into a restaurant and said you were gluten free, they would laugh at you. Yeah. Now it's common, right? So within the meal prep industry, and I think within food in general, I think people know more about themselves, and we'll be able to we'll expect the food to be tailored to them. So we have to be able to react to that. So at the minute we do that with allergies and with dislikes. But for example, in the future, let's imagine you get a blood test because you're feeling lethargic, and let's say that it says you need to eat more vitamin B12, have a decrease in this. Click on this link. It goes to the Practical website. You're able to click on a button, which is essentially blood test compliant or not. Click. That's what I see the meal plan business is going to. So essentially, it's It's taking your plan will be, I said before that your plan is only for you. I'm talking now the nth level of that, not just calories and macros and food choices. I'm talking about micronutrients, timing, all of that stuff that comes specifically for you. And that might sound a bit like hyper now, but equally talking about calories and macros and stuff sounded hyper 20 years ago. I believe it will be the absolute norm, especially for people who have meal plans, for the meal plan to be bulletproofed for them and them alone.
So do you feel that's Practical's route forward now is just hyper personalization?
I think it is, but there are baby steps along the journey. So imagine, if you look at say a 2030 vision or whatever, 2030 vision is, your meal plans are drone to you, and every single thing within the meals is tailored to you. So, and that can be done with an amazing build your own, or with certain variants of things, or things you would add to the lasagna for you, right? I see that as being absolutely that's where it's going to be. But baby steps on the way. So, for example, at the moment we're launching a thing called Practical. It's either going to be called Perform or Private Chef, which is an upgrade on our Build Your Own, where you can have on our Build Your Own right now. You have to have protein, carbs, and fats. What happens if you don't want carbs? Yeah. So, baby step number one is tell us what your macros are, your protein, your carbs, and your fats. Tell us what foods you like. And then tell us what you want, and we will fit the foods to your macros. So if you just want a meal just of chicken, it's fine. So we're doing that now. That's going to be out in the next 2 months. Yeah. So it's going to be literally, it's a private chef essentially cooking things exactly for you. Baby step number one. So if you get that right, that's good. Baby step number two is to make sure that our database of foods, at the minute our databases of foods have about 10 different pieces of information in them: calories, sodium, etc. There's about 54 different things you really would want if you're being really extreme about it. Things like folate, levels of B vitamins and stuff like that. We're populating that at the moment. So baby step number two is to working with people, for example, midwives. That's a good example, or nutritionists around pregnant ladies. Pregnant people need different nutrients. People who've given birth and are breastfeeding need different nutrients. So if we know that, there should be a button you can press where the meal plan now delivers the right taste, the right calories, the right macros, and the right level of folate and things, choline and things for the baby. So baby step number two is that switch. We already have the mechanics of it. We just don't have the back-end data. And once you've got those two things, you can then move. Well, if you know you can build any meal, and you know you can build meals to exactly the requirements of people in certain populations, it's only one more step to I can build any meal for any person. Yeah. So it's 1, 2, 3.
It sounds amazing. And I think now wearing my Whoop and things like that, it tracks everything.
Right.
Imagine if your Whoop was then tied in with your meal plan.
Yeah, you need this. Yeah, exactly. This today, you need more. You need more. Because at the moment, Whoop says you need more sleep, is what it says.
But does it say you need more carbs or you need more protein?
No, but there's now glucose. I mean, have any of your friends picked up a glucose tracker recently?
Yeah, I've seen them wearing them on the arms, yeah.
So now it's going to be, you need to have less high GI carbs, for example. So that would be so say you've got a chicken biryani. No, let's use a different example. A chicken tikka masala. We use white rice, right, as the base. But why couldn't you use quinoa, which is a slower digesting carb, or buckwheat, for example? So I might get the one with the white rice, the classic. Yeah. You might get the one with the buckwheat. Yeah. But only on certain days. Oh, definitely. On days when you need it. Yeah. I can see clear as day how that's going to happen. Yeah. Because everything in the world is becoming increasingly personalized. People are increasingly interested in their own biomarkers. Yeah. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be some exciting times ahead. Chris, fantastic you joining us today. It's been really, really interesting.
Great.
Before you leave us, could you give us the 3 top tips for successfully marketing a meal prep service?
Ooh, 3 top tips.
3 top tips.
Okay.
The ones that have given you the most success on your journey.
Okay, so tip number 1, identify your target consumer and speak to them with clarity and simplicity and empathy. Tip number 2, identify why you're different and express it remorselessly, constantly. And if you're not different, stop your business and make a better business. And tip number 3, in my experience, is you can and should attempt to outwork everyone in places where your business will drive the most value. So I don't mean running around. I don't cook the chicken tikka masala. but I do mean remorselessly. Like I mean make contacts with different businesses, go to networking events, make contact. That's my role. So I say they're my top 3.
Fantastic. So 3 fantastic tips from Chris there. Once again, thanks for joining us, Chris. You can find out all about Practical at www.practical.me.
Yes.
Isn't it? Head on over there. Like I said, I've used the platform for over a year. It's phenomenal. Do check them out and you won't regret it. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Raising the Bar again today. Remember to subscribe, like on YouTube, and follow us on social medias. And we'll be back again next week with another great guest. Thank you very much.